Hello, welcome to Model Kit Stuff. My name is Jason and today we've got a first impressions. This, yes, the 1:48 scale Airfix Sepcat Jaguar GR.1 or GR.1A. This is the only first impressions you're going to need to watch. Why? Well, firstly, I've purchased this kit, which means I'll be completely honest about what I find. And secondly, we're going to deep dive into every little nook and cranny of this kit. So, without further ado, let's get stuck in. Well, as always, we're going to talk about the packaging first, and I ordered this as a pre-order direct from Airfix, and it came in this cardboard shipper, and I was a little bit concerned because you can probably see it's got a bit of damage on it, and not only that, it's got quite a considerable amount of water damage on it. If we turn it around there, you can see all of that is water damage. So I was a bit worried, but I didn't need to be, because inside was another cardboard shipper with our kit in. So actually the outer packaging, if you order it directly from Airfix, is really good. Now the actual packaging of the box, what do we get? Well, we have a corrugated base and a single corrugated top, so it's a little bit more robust than the smaller boxes that you get on the smaller kits from Airfix, where you might have a flimsy box with an end opening or a flimsy top opener. This has got a little bit better protection. We'll have a look at what's in the box in a minute. The box is taped down. It's taped down on all four ends, so it's nice and secure. It's not gonna come away. On the front, we've got this lovely bit of artwork of two Jaguars in flight in their desert colours. Looks really spectacular, doesn't it? And it tells us we've got a kit number of A11010. The A11 means that you won't be able to use your flying hours to get hold of this. So maybe a later release of it you might be able to. It tells us it's 1:48 scale and that we've got the Jaguar GR.1, GR.1A. And then if we look on this end here, it's going to tell us that it's 2025 tooling. I mean, realistically 2024, they've worked on it for a little while. Pack design and schemes of 2025. Made in India. We've got cartograph decals, as you always get from Airfix, and contact details if you need to talk to them about it. The two ends are the same as the top information, and then as always on the other side you get a bit of history. We get 4 paint options. We'll talk you through those in a sec. Then you get the list of all the Humbrol paints that you may want if you're going to use the Humbrol, the Airfix suggested paint schemes. We get 4 flying hours, and it tells us that it's a skill level 4. So we're expecting quite a complex build inside here, which is, you know, something I would look forward to. So our 4 paint schemes, let's just quickly talk through them. So number 54F Squadron, RAF Lossiemouth, Scotland, 1974. So a standard camouflage one. We'll see them a bit more in detail when we go through the instructions. Then paint option B is number 6 Squadron, RAF Cottesloe, Norfolk, England, 1990 to 94. And then we've got Operation Granby, Desert Storm, Bahrain, 1990, 1991. It does mention an airport, but I'm not going to try and pronounce that on camera. And then finally, we've got number 11 AC Squadron, RAF Laarbruck, West Germany, 1976. So, I mean, you've got 3 similar looking camouflage schemes there, and then you've got the standout one, which is the Desert Storm one that's depicted on the front. I think you're going to get a mix of people doing different types. Right, let's open the box and see what we've got inside. I've just tidied up on my desk and now I can't find anything. Like, where have I put my knives? There we go. Right, so let's cut the 4 adhesive labels that are keeping this all locked down and see what the packaging is like inside. I've not looked inside this, so you can see it's a genuine first impression. And we're going to take the box off, he says. There we go. Okay, so first thing that greets me is we've got a box that's not quite full. There's quite a bit of space in here for this to move around. So, yeah, we've got 1, 2, 3 bags. I've got to say that most of the sprues are the width of the box. So what you can see is we've got this one on the top that can move around. The others are the width of the box. So that's pretty good. They're not going to move around too much. We've got 2 sprues in there, and in between the 2 sprues is the clear sprues in a clear bag, and we've got 2 sprues in that bag and then 1 in that. Instructions and decals at the bottom. Just going to have a look at decals are in the instruction book, so that's good, they're nicely protected. So all in all, not bad. My only criticism would be a little bit of movement in here. It could do with a cardboard insert or something to stop it moving about, or just something on top just to fill the space so that you've got no movement. But all in all, can't really grumble too much about that, I don't think. Right, let's have a look at the instructions. We'll change the angle for that. Right then, so we have the usual Airfix A4 colour stapled build manual, and on the front we've got some history in multiple languages, specification of the aircraft. At the bottom here it tells us we should be washing our parts. That makes sure that they're clean after being handled in the factory, and it can improve your paint adherence. And it can improve your paint adherence. Then we've got some assembly instruction notes, and then we've got an assembly icon, and everything looks familiar there, so I don't see that there's any changes to what I know from Airfix. And then quite typical of Airfix with some of their more complicated builds, we're talking about options right at the front here. So we've obviously got ordnance options and we've got the option numbers there, and you need to make those decisions now because you're going to be making choices throughout the build depending on which option you've decided to go for. So we've got 4 paint options, A through to D, and then we've got various options that you can use on those aircraft. So that's really nice. It's nice and clear. You can make your decisions up front, maybe have a look at the ordnance and decide what you think looks best, or maybe you've decided which aircraft you're going to do and therefore that dictates your ordnance. But whatever it's going to be, it's decision time right at the start. It does say apply underwing decals before attaching pylons and weapons. I hope they remind you to do that later on, because some people could take several months building this, and that's the sort of thing you forget, or I do. Okay, then we've got decal positions. So this is quite interesting. We've got all sorts of different places, not all internal, because we've got landing gear here with all the different decal positions. Already I'm thinking decal heavy. I like that. That means we've got lots of markings, lots of options. Really, really love that. So we start, perhaps not surprisingly, with building up the cockpit. So step 1, we've got cockpit detail going on, and then we've got single decals that cover them, they always sit uncomfortably. So this is this here. They always sit uncomfortably, so you might be able to chop them up to improve the sitting, or you might be able to have a look at them and go, do you know what, I'll paint the switches for what it's worth. How well you're going to see it when it's built up, I don't know. I don't know enough about the actual aircraft to be able to judge that. One thing I should say, which I haven't, is that we've got paint instructions here for pilots. Therefore, we have pilots included, so that's really good as well. Step 2, we continue with the cockpit, more decals, more painting instructions, and then step 3, we carry on. We've got a bulkhead there. Doesn't it look busy though? I mean, it looks really detail heavy, which is really, really nice. Then we're building up the seat. I mean, that looks like a little model in its own right, doesn't it? We've got 2 parts coming together, then we're putting more parts in, then we've got a headrest part going in, painting it, decals. I mean, I guess that's the ejector seat lever. All sorts of stuff going into here, loads of decals, really complicated. And then it looks like we've got 2 different seats and options. So yeah, okay. Cool. Step 13. I mean, we've built the inside frame of 1 cockpit and one seat, and we're at step 13. That's really good. That means they're breaking down the steps so they're nice and clear. So step 14, we're putting in some bulkheads. So that's going to get upturned, and then we're mounting the cockpit on the top. So that's landing gear bay or something like that. Then we've got what looks like the front of the fuselage there, and we've got some detail going in. Yes, it is. We've got some notes there for depending on which scheme you're building. So if building scheme A, follow steps 17 through to 21 and help put below unused parts H29 and 30. Right, okay. Do not glue if building scheme B, C and D. Miss out steps 17 to 21. So this bit is just for paint scheme A. So it looks like a simplified... Oh, it looks like some form of mask or something going on there. No. So what we've got is a jig that we're forming on there to make sure we cut off the nose piece in exactly the right place. So we've obviously got an alternative nose for A, so that's really cool. I can see already why they're saying this is skill level 4. Then we've got that coming together. So scheme A, we've got a new nose cone to install. Otherwise, you're just putting the 2 halves together. Then there's a clear part going in if you're not on scheme A. You've got the little glass piece at the front. Okay, some instructions to remove ejector tabs. And then we can see more bulkheads and bits and pieces being built up. I'm not seeing any commentary about weight in the nose as yet, at least. So yeah, pretty much the same as what we've just done, but for the other side, yeah, bulkheads going in, and then we're working on what looks like the undersides of the fuselage where the engines are, just from the shape. Got some drilling to do, clear parts to install, again, options. Yeah, so that's that piece there that we were working on. So that is installed. So you've got to put in your landing lights and bits and pieces before that's installed. We've got paint instructions throughout, as you always have with Airfix, and you can see what's your last thing fitted at every step. So adding the nose into the fuselage, looks like it sort of clicks in, and you know, you've got a fair distance of travel, so that's really interesting. Some small detail parts going on, so that's really cool. and some fins, and then we've got a little image there that shows you the correct positioning so you can get the geometry right. That's really cool as well. Step 44, would you believe it? And we've got a little jig. So I don't know who's designed this, but I suspect it might be Paramjit, looking at how this is coming together. So we've got this jig here, which is building up the air intakes, I think. So yeah, for the front of the engines there. So I mean, that's really cool, isn't it? So helpful. Don't know what the timer's for. Yeah, okay. So it's saying paint the inside first, then build it. Then we can see them being installed. Then we've got wings. We've got some more drilling to do. It's not saying that's an option, so that's something you have to do on all versions. That is for just A and D though, that drilling there. Then we can see the upper part of the wings going in, and they're on the inside, so that all the leading edges are moulded in, and then your upper wing is going in, or it could be the lower wing. Yeah, it is. It's the lower part of the wing, I beg your pardon, is fitting in where there would be panel lines. So that's a really nice touch as well. I don't think I've seen a graphic of pegs before, but certainly they want you to clamp it in some way, and they tell you to leave it for an hour to make sure that's nice and stable. So yeah, all very good. Some more small detail parts going in, which means our detail will be lovely and crisp, because they're not trying to mould it in two halves and all of that sort of stuff. So yeah, really cool. And then at the bottom here, step 58, 59, we've got the tail going on. Right, then we've got the exhaust parts going on. So yeah, quite a complex little build that they seem to have simplified quite nicely. So that's going to look really authentic. And again, lots of sort of build and paint as you go. Then more parts for the tail end. More little bits. God, there's lots of individual parts going on here. This is going to build up really nice, you can tell. Quite an involved build. For a 1/48 scale aircraft, quite an involved build. Okay, so then we've got flaps going on. Looks like we've got options on the flaps as well. Then we're building up landing gear, which looks fairly detailed. We've got, you know, if it stands up to what we've got in the drawings, all the couplings seem to be nice and clear. No brake lines that I can see, but maybe we don't have brake lines, I don't know. So as always, do a bit of reference work and see if there's any additional bits of wire and stuff need adding. So then we can see them being installed. Looks like once you've built it up, installation is fairly straightforward. We've got a couple of rods to put on afterwards, and then job done. Wheels, we've got weighted wheels, 2 parts, hubs in. That's interesting, isn't it? You know, sometimes the Airfix do the wheels without the hubs, and so you can paint them separately. What I do see though is a little hole there, which means you can probably mount it on a cocktail stick for painting, so that's nice. Then we've got the front wheel going together and the 2-part wheel going onto there as well. Step 100, not quite sure what that is going into there, but it's more detail going around the landing gear areas. I'm sure it'll become clear when we're actually building it. And then putting covers on. There must be options there. Yeah, there is options for open and closed. Then the front wheel bay cover with its lights on, and again options for open and close. You're going to have it open, aren't you? You're going to want to see all that detail. Then we've got I was going to say it's an arrestor hook. I'm not sure what that is actually. does tell you you've got to assemble it in sequence though. So that bit has to go on first before you fit that. Okay, more clear parts. Some aerials going on the nose there. Again, depending on which version you've built. I guess it's the A that has the clear part. Yeah, more aerials, more tiny clear parts. It'll be interesting to have a look at those. Then we've got, those will be the air intake covers for when she's parked up. Option of putting the pilot in. Looks like we've got no seat harnesses though if you're not using the pilot. And then canopies going on and more decals for the canopy edge. Then we're building up the assembly for assemblies for mounting the various ordnance, building up the ordnance of various types, and that gets us to installing the last bit of ordnance on top of the wings, and 138 steps. Given that some of them are options, fair enough, but 138 steps, that's enough to keep you going for a little while, isn't it? Right, let's have a look at the paint instructions. So our paint instructions come on 3 separate sheets. So we're going to start with A. Let's get you in a bit closer and get the light off it. There we go. So what we get is a single sheet with all 4 different views of the aircraft. We've got our list of paints along the top there, and you've got paint numbers in the box, in the white boxes, and then the red boxes are your decals. I've got to be honest, it feels a bit busy this. Quite often they do decals in separate places, but I guess they've decided it's too complicated because you're going to have lots of different iterations of the decal markings. But this does look quite busy, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, it's usable, obviously, but because of its size, it is a little bit busy. But yeah, one thing that stands out, we've got plenty of decals. I doubt they've missed a single stencil on this. So yeah, absolutely tons of them. So standard camouflage scheme with what's the light colour? 166. So matte light aircraft grey. Underneath you've got the pale yellow inside, which will look really nice with a wash. I mean, yeah, it's gonna look gorgeous, that, isn't it? And lots of decals. Cool. Then if we look at paint scheme B, pretty much the same. Somehow feels like a few less decals for paint scheme B, but still plenty to go at, and little tiny ones on the cockpit edges and what have you. No mention of the ordnance. I think that's on a separate sheet. Paint scheme C, obviously the Desert Storm one, and we've got it mainly in the matte desert sand, which, if you're using the Humbrol paints, is a mix, 4 parts 118 and 3 parts 34 being white, so you're just lightening it up a little bit. This is definitely the option for people that don't like decals. Look how plain that is in comparison. Yeah, you are not seeing much in the way of stencils on that. I guess they painted over a lot of them in the process of camouflaging the aircraft for Desert Storm. Don't know. But certainly that's your easy option if you don't like decals. And then finally, a few more decals again. Paint scheme D, which has you with camouflage on the top surfaces and on the under surfaces, which is really interesting. So yeah, there you go. That's the 4 paint schemes, but we also have one last page which has got all of our ordnance on, and I'm going to say the same comment. Look at all the little red boxes. Tons and tons of decals. This is going to be so detailed straight out of the box. It's wonderful. Now, I love decals, and I'm not really into jet aircraft, but the simple number of decals you get on a jet aircraft makes me want to build one. Could it be this one? Our decals now, and we've got one large sheet of decals, which, you know, no surprise given what we've just been looking at. What I can see is we do have a big area for common decals, and then we have A, B, C and D separated off. So there was a short period when Airfix appeared to have moved away from that, and they've moved back to it, and I'm really glad they have, because I really like that. These are cartograph decals. So first thing I'll say is they are really nice and thin, so that's really good in terms of not seeing a witness of the decal once you've put it on and clear coated it. Also that, I mean, we have some large areas of decal film through necessity between these lines, for example, and these lines, for example, but there's no margin. It's trimmed really tightly, and that is really nice. Some of these decals are going to be tricky to put on. So if you look at this one here, for example, so that where it says rescue, and the little blob underneath it, and those two there, and those two there, they're all on one decal film. So there is some more tricky ones to do. We've got lots of tiny ones here. I mean, if you're not a fan of decals, you could just go with the main markings and not worry about all the little stencils. Who's going to know? I mean, who is going to miss that, to be quite honest? Well, I would. So I'd be putting it on. Not that I'm a rivet counter, but I know it should be there, so I want it to be there. So yeah, the saturation of the colour is really nice. They're not too faded. The register is absolutely spot on, as we would expect. Yeah, really pretty. Yeah, done really well. Although not sure if I've got some damage in there or not. Hard to tell. We'll go with not. But yeah, really nice. And you can see here, this decal here that they ask you to put on that bumpy surface. I mean, it's all black dots. I'd be just painting it on. Painting the black, painting the white on, painting the yellow. Use the decal as a guide to what to paint, I think. Yeah, nothing wrong with those. Nice set of decals and really comprehensive. So we're going to do the parts in reverse order so that I can pack it back into the box the way it came. And what we're going to do, if you've not seen one of my first impressions before, we'll talk through the sprues, and then at the end there'll be a collection of close-up images taken of all of these parts, so you can get a nice good close-up of anything that I've pointed out, some of the detail and so on. So this is Sprue H. First thing I'm going to point out is they've nicely put a little H tab there. It's easy to see, so you don't have to worry about putting tape on and all that sort of nonsense. What is a good little tip is just to paint that in some bright yellow or white or something, so that your eye's drawn to it and it's easy to find. I find that can be quite helpful. The second thing I'm noticing is we've got slide moulding going on here. So this square here means that the slide moulding tools come in from the side, and that's been done to get all this detail on the underside of the cockpit there. We'll take some photographs of that for you. The next thing I'm seeing is some sync. So let's have a look. First thing is here on this bit of ordnance. See if we can get the light to bounce off that. You can just about see it there. Again, I'll take a photograph. It's where this ejector pin is. and it's easy to sort because it's on a smooth area, so we can fill that and sand that out. What will be less easy to sort is this. So this bulkhead here. So unless I'm being silly and that's a material cover, that looks like it's absolutely riddled with zinc. That is pretty poor. Yeah, that's a real shame, that. Because there's lots and lots of lovely detail there, and the surface behind that detail is like crumpled up foil. It is that bad. What a shame. Below that though, the other cockpit detail, really, really nice. I don't know how much of that will get hidden by the seat, in fairness, but it shouldn't be there. Really nice, crisp, tight detail in the other places. I mean, look at the cockpit, for example. Really, really nice. It's all crisp. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the ordnance is fairly smooth. I'm just looking to see if there's any other imperfections. I don't see any. I think everything else looks good. I can see that this antenna here, this would be sticking out of the nose, that's just started to move away on its sprue gate here. So you might want to take these out and re-wrap them, and maybe wrap that in a bit of, put a little bit of cling film around it, plastic wrap or something, just to protect it. I'm not seeing too much in the way of seam. I certainly don't see any flash. Oh, there's a bit more sink here. You can just see there. And then we've got our cockpit fronts, the nose part. The detail is really nice. The panel lines are really well done. They're not too deep, they're not too wide. Rivets are all recessed, but looks really good. When we flip it over, there is a little bit of detail on the inside. You can just see the ends of some cabling that will obviously attach to other stuff that we're going to put in there. And that is about it. Right, so that is Sprue H. So we've got sprues E, F and G all sort of connected together here. So if it's helpful, you can just remove those and break those down for your sprue rack while you're building. The positions of the tabs with the letters on can vary, which is why I suggested you perhaps paint them to make them easy to spot. So we've got a lot of small parts on E, detail parts, and it all looks really crisp. First thing I always look for is anything clearly damaged or come off the sprue, and the closest to that is part 53, whatever that is, and that's been bent back, but it seems to be okay. These sort of things are always vulnerable because they're sticking up, but they seem to be okay, and they appear to be nice and straight, and in this harder plastic they do stand up better than they did before. The arrestor hook is nice and straight, and it's really noticeable how little seam there is on this. The moulding is really, really nice. This is top drawer moulding, really crisp, very impressive actually. I don't see any sink on Sprue E. As I look at Sprue F, again, I'm not seeing any issues at all. Yeah, no sink or any issues there at all. Lots and lots of detail though. We've got fastener detail, we've got all sorts of little details. I don't know what most of it is. Panel lines are good. Yeah, so you know, you've not got acres of bare plastic like perhaps you might be used to. We've got little bits of detail. Every square centimetre has got something on it. It's really, really nice. Bombs, nicely done. We've got fastener detail on there, all countersunk, so easy to replace if you're filling and sanding. Then we've got the seats. This is Sprue G now. And it seems to be all seat parts on here, headrests, the ejector handles, the seats themselves, and yeah, the actual side housings of the seats. And look at the detail on them. Absolutely stunning. I'll get you some nice close-ups of those. So yeah, I don't see any issues. All the ejector pins seem to be in hidden areas, so it's well thought through. Engineering is great. Some of the parts have little hidden notifications to tell you which way up they should go. Again, another hallmark of Pramjet. Really, it's really nice. Yeah, there is nothing wrong with that. Acres of very, very classy moulding. That is nice. Yeah, it's very nice. Right, so we've got sprue C and D. In my case, these have snapped in the bag and separated at the joining points, but I don't see that any parts have come off. There was 2 sprues in this bag, and I will repack it. One sprue out of the bag and the other in the bag, just to keep them separate. So if we look at sprue D first, we've got the wheels on, and what I can see is lots of beautiful hub detail. We've got all sorts of landing gear parts, and again, the detail is really nice, and I'm just scanning for any imperfections that jump out to me, and I don't see any. So no sink, no flash, no issues, all really nice. The tyres, they have a little bit of tread detail, not much, no sidewall writing. Airfix don't tend to because of licensing costs, is my understanding. Really nice detail in these bays though, if you look at that. Again, close-up pictures to follow. Really nice detail. You've got pipe work and duct work and stuff. You've got raised rivets I can feel in there, but yeah, so that's really nice. Loads and loads of pipe work. Under a wash it'll really pop this. I mean, look at that, look at all the electrical cables running through there. Looks really, really good. Yeah, very, very nice. All the junction boxes and stuff are really nicely done. They're not just a square, they've got detail on them. I'm sure they've probably got decals on them as well. I mean, it's just really, really nicely done. And some of these parts are a bit translucent. That's how fine the moulding is. You know, really, really crisp, really thin. And then when we look on the inside, again, raised fastener detail there. Really nicely done. I know it doesn't, you can't see it too well on the camera, but you'll see it on the close-ups. Yeah, we've got some ejector pins to clean out. We've got a tendency to have these sort of raised tabs that we've got to remove, but I'm not seeing much in the way of work of cleanup. It's just the sprue gate tabs that we need to sand flush. Otherwise, it's really crisp, and again, hardly any seam. I'm really impressed with the lack of seam. It is really, really good moulding. And there's a bit of flash on the sprue, but there's nothing on the parts. So yeah, a real high standard of moulding. I mean, if this was Tamiya, no one would be batting an eye that this was Tamiya standard. And I think there's still 1 or 2 people that don't believe Airfix are as good as Tamiya. Well, to be quite honest, in many ways, Airfix are better than Tamiya these days, and this is sort of proving the point. What a beautiful, beautiful bit of moulding. Now, I have just seen a small amount of sink as I'm saying that. Yeah, and it's these great big whopping pin tabs are causing us a little bit of a problem. So there's a little pull in there, and I've got raised detail there. Can you see that? It's tiny. You might be able to get it out. You might not see it when you're building it. Don't know. But I have to nitpick because I have to point these things out, and you know, that's sort of the job. Right, let's have a look at this sprue now. Sprue C, we've got some bigger parts on here. So doors and bits and pieces. They all seem to be nicely done. Yeah, we've got some of the engine exhaust elements. Nice detail on there. I don't know enough about the aircraft to be able to say whether stuff is accurate or not. What I can say is what we have got is beautifully moulded. It's really crisp, you know. I mean, look at that. So very nice. Yeah. And then we've got the engine intakes. Yeah, they're good as well. I don't see any sink on here. That's our little jig there for building the intakes. They're all grouped together as well, the parts, so you were sort of working from one sprue at a time if you follow the instruction sequence. Yeah, nothing wrong with those. Really, really nice moulding, detail, all good. Our two fuselage halves now come as Sprue A1 and A2. And what is clear right from the start is we've got all those complex curves all captured really, really nicely. I mean, there's other than this section here, there's hardly a straight line on it. I mean, it's really quite beautiful how they've caught that. And again, lots of slide moulding going on both sides here. So really expensive part to make. Got lots and lots of lovely detail on here. And same on here. They've captured all the panel lines along here. I mean, it's really nicely moulded. Most of what I'm feeling is recessed, although there is some raised fastener detail just on this section here. But yeah, the rest of it seems to be, yeah, the rest of it is all recessed. I mean, really nicely done. We're going to have our bits added onto there and bits added onto there, and it's, you know, it's going to look the bee's knees, isn't it? There is always, when you get slide moulding, you get a witness seam, and on this it is just there, and it's following that sort of line. So there's a little bit of delicate sanding needed there. I can't see it here. I mean, they've done a really good job hiding all that seam. That's the only place where we've got a slide tool seam. That's really good. Standard of moulding is phenomenal, I have to say. I don't see any issues with sink at all, and it's interesting. We seem to have a combination of sprue gates. So some of them are on the internal surface, like this one here and this one here, and then others are on the outer surface, like this one here, and no, I think that is the only one on an outer surface, actually. I beg your pardon. So why that one's on an outer surface when the rest aren't, I don't know. It is a little flat area, and it does have the arrestor hook go over it, so it could be that, and they decided that it was okay to do that. But yeah, this is yeah, very, 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 very nice. Sprue B now, and we've got wings, tails and pilots to look at. So first of all, have we got any sink, any flash, any mould issues? No, and the tails are pretty solid, so that if we were going to get an issue, we were going to get it there. But what they've actually done is they've made that a two-piece where it would be really thick, so that's avoiding any issues. I'm just going to have a look at the leading edges, which would be where we'd possibly get some, and we seem to have escaped it there as well. So yeah, surface detail is absolutely gorgeous. Tons and tons of lovely rivet detail. Very, very nice. Yeah, and then they're using a sort of biscuit tab fitting for the tail planes, and then this piece here has got a peg. Yeah, lovely. And then there's a small bit of flash on this part here, part B1. You can just see there in that corner. I mean, nothing, a single scrape and it's gone, so no issues at all there. And then as I look at the pilots, they're nice and crisp as well. They're probably the parts with the heaviest seam I've seen so far. But yeah, very, very, very nicely done. Mask off with both of them. Both pilots have the same pose. Guess that was done for cost reasons. They can be one of the more expensive parts, the figures, because you can't do them on CAD. So at least that's my understanding. So yeah, another set of lovely parts. So other than a small touch of flash, perfect. Clear parts now, and what Airfix have cleverly done is they've got two sprues and they've put them in a bag, and then they've done a heat seal down the middle to separate them so they can't bash into each other. So that's a nice feature. So let's have a look at the smaller one, which is Sprue M. It's quite a tight fit actually. There we go. And we've got small little lamps on this. Let's bring you in. There we go. So we've got the little tiny lamps. I mean, as clear as anything. Really nicely done. Airfix do some of the best clear parts in my opinion most of the time. Yeah, really, really nice. Crystal clear, really beautiful those. So yeah, no issues with that whatsoever. We'll we'll take some pictures and share those in a sec. Let's have a look at the other clear parts. So this has got the main canopy on, and again crystal clear. So we've got the nose part there, and it's really well done. Obviously we've got distortion. You're not going to do a curve like that without distortion. But what's important is when I put my hand behind it, that disappears. So no real issues. Just want to have a look at the distortion in this here. Yeah, we do have distortion. Quite a bit of rippling at this point along this edge here. So let's see if we can get the camera to pick that up for you. No, it's not going to, is it? There you go. What the distortion's like on the real aircraft though, I don't know. You're always going to get distortion when you have a shape like that, but there is no spidering, so it's really nice and clear. It's a very, very, very nice canopy that. I don't see any scuff marks or anything, so for me that's perfect. That's how you do it. Same with this one here, although I don't. Again, just on this edge here where you've got quite a tight curve, bit of distortion. All of these parts though, I mean, they just disappear when my hand goes behind them. Yeah, just really nice clear parts. I have no issues with those whatsoever. We've got recessed rivet detail on them, so you're not going to have any problems sitting those tiny little decals. I know some manufacturers now do raised rivets, but they're not helping the modeler when they do that, to be fair. So yeah, all good with that. Really nice. Take some photos. I'll let you have a close-up look at these parts and then we'll sum up. So there you have it, the Airfix Setcap Jaguar GR1 or GR.1A in 1 to 48 scale. What's my first impression? Well, let's start with the packaging. The actual shipping packaging is really, really good. There is no bubble wrap, so it's all cardboard, so it's all recyclable. That's a big tick. It was well protected, 2 double corrugated shippers. That's phenomenally good packaging. The actual box itself is fairly resistant to being crushed, so should hold up in your stash for a couple of years without any problems at all, and it's not going to crush or anything. So again, no problems at all. There is a little bit of movement in the box with the parts, although we had no issues with damaged parts, and most of the sprues, not all, are pretty much the size of the box, so you've got no issues there. I just think it needs a little bit of something in the box, or a slightly less deep box, so that you've not got the parts moving around quite so much. Time will tell whether that is an issue or not when kits get resold on in 3-5 years time. But what I would say is, overall, packaging good, no real major concerns one way or another. Instructions, they are complex but clear. The build sequence makes absolute sense. You've got lots of options and they are well laid out. I saw no issues with the instructions. I say this regularly, but I continue to believe that Airfix are leading in how to do instructions. They are really, really nice, clear instructions, and they really don't need to change a thing with them. So really good, solid instructions. The paint instructions I thought were a little bit busy. You've got an A4 sheet with a lot of information being crammed in, particularly with all of those decals, so maybe blowing that up a bit bigger so it's easier to see. The positioning, I think, is my only sort of critique there, but there is nothing that they have left out. So lots and lots of detail, all beautifully covered. So it just means you've got to concentrate and study, and you know, for me, sometimes when things are busy I find it a little bit difficult, but I'm dyslexic, so it could be that, but everything's there. That said, no great issues with the instructions, all fine. Class leading instructions for me. Then we get to the decals. Decals are cartograph again. Class leading decals, you don't get better than cartograph decals. Well laid out, they've got the paint options all designated, so you can cut those out and put them to one side and know that you've got all the right ones, and discard the others. And then the bulk of them were common decals anyway, so lots and lots of beautiful decals. Some of them very tiny. You've got the option to just put main markings on and put to whatever degree of stencils you want on. For me, I'll try and get them all on. But yeah, decals, absolutely no issues. Then we come to the plastic parts. I can't say there was no issues, because there was, but not really very much. I think there was only one part that I would say was a little bit disappointing what the finish was on, because you had so much sink in it that wasn't going to be easy to sort or even be able to be sorted. How visible that all is when it's built, I don't know, but it's not on the exterior of the aircraft, so it's not a major issue from that point of view. All the other sink was easy to sort one way or another. I think we had, what was it, 4 or 5 parts maybe, tops, that had minor sink issues. You consider that in comparison to other current new release kits, new tool kits that come out from the likes of big brands like Mini-Art, Revell, you'll see lots more issues than you're getting in that box. When it comes to the actual detail of the parts, absolutely exquisite. You've got lovely plastic that holds all that detail really, really well. The detail is crisp. There's absolutely tons of it. All these little intricate shapes, really beautifully captured. I think it was really a fine job of the moulding. I have no issues with that whatsoever. Lots and lots of detail, high part count to make sure that the detail isn't compromised, which is really nice. We've got a couple of little nice jigs in there, one for cutting the nose off and one for building the air intakes. So some lovely thought from the designer about what the modeler needs when he's building the model up. I think it was a nice balance between not overly complex and complex enough to capture the detail. So by that I mean we've got separate parts so that it could be moulded properly rather than trying to mould it into one part. That ups your part count, but we haven't over-engineered the kit. So, you know, you can argue that Mini-Art and Tamiya, for example, will over-engineer kits sometimes, and that can put your costs up, and it can affect quality of the parts and so on. So I think Airfix have got the balance right there with the parts, and the plastic parts are absolutely stunning. Probably the biggest issue you will have in all of that construction, from first look you understand, is getting the decals down in the cockpit. You know, you might want to have a look at cutting the decals up into little sections to put them on, or painting your details instead. But otherwise, all very nice. Clear parts were perfect. We had none of the issues that we sometimes get in clear parts, regardless of brand. Distortion wasn't too bad. It was where we expected it to be, and as soon as you put something behind it, it disappeared. Crystal clear. For me, the clear parts were excellent. So all in all, a really nice package. This is a beautiful kit. You've got plenty of paint options, albeit 3 of them look similar. There are differences. You know, you do have limits as to what she actually look like. And there's quite a bit of future potential because although no longer in service with the French and British Air Forces, she is still being used in the Indian Air Force and was also out in various other countries. So there will be more releases of this to come, I have no doubt, with different paint markings. It's a very nice kit, and if you're a fan of the Jaguar, and I got to say I'm not particularly, then you've got no issues here. It's a beautiful kit that has captured the Jaguar really well. It's a very accurate looking model. Now, I don't know enough about the aircraft to say, yeah, this is spot on accurate, whether all the panel lines are in the right place. You know, I can't rivet count it like that, but what I can say is it looks like a Jaguar to me. And yeah, there is always going to be conversations around things like the paints call outs that they're using. They're limited to Humbrol, so you might want to look at different paint solutions to get your perfect colour. But for me, that doesn't need any aftermarket. You can build that straight out of the box and get a stunning kit, which is after all what you're after. So last thing to comment on is the cost. So the recommended retail price is $59.99. You might be able to find it a little bit cheaper from some online stores, and if you buy it on from Airfix and you're a member, obviously you'll get your 10% off, plus you might be able to use any hobby points as well to reduce the cost of it. So for me, this will be the cheapest way of buying it for me. I'm a member of the Airfix club, and so I was able to get 10% off, and it's given me some points that'll go towards something else, so that's a win-win. I think £60 for this model is a good price. You haven't got photo etch or anything in there putting the price up. You've got probably one of the more expensive kits for Airfix to make, just because of all that slide moulding. Slide moulding isn't cheap. You've got 2 figures in there. Figures aren't cheap. So yeah, you've got some more expensive elements in there than perhaps you'd get in a standard Airfix kit, and therefore it warrants that little bit of a price tag, and I think they've been able to get that in at quite a decent price. Quite easily could have come in at sort of the £70 mark like the Buccaneer did. So I think that's a really good deal. You've got a really nice kit of a really interesting subject that I know is going to be popular, and they've managed to do it at a decent price, which means that Airfix haven't taken the opportunity to take the mickey, knowing that people have been asking for it and therefore it will sell. They've done the right thing and get the price tag as keen as they can. So credit to Airfix for that. I think that's a really beautiful model, and I'm sure that lots of people are going to be starting to frantically build it over the next few weeks. So yeah, it's been many years since I built a jet aircraft, and this might just be the one, because I'm really quite interested to see. I do have some jet aircraft in my stash. I've got the Airfix Vulcan, for example, and 1 or 2 others. The Buccaneer in 2 scales, but that I think is really, really nice, and yeah, quite tempting. So there you go. If you wondered what the kit was actually like and wanted to know what was in the box and whether Airfix had done a great job or not such a great job, you now know. This of course is only my opinion, but it is an honest opinion. Like I said, I purchased this kit, so I'm free to say what I truly think. And with the exception of one part that's letting the whole kit down, I think that's a really stunning model from Airfix. And congratulations to them for finally bringing it out. I know there'll be a lot of happy modelers. So thank you very much for looking in. Please hit the like button if you enjoyed that video, found it useful, found it informative. It costs you nothing and it helps me so much, and it's the cheapest way of saying thank you. So until the next time I see you, you enjoy your modelling, and bye for now.